Jim Gaffigan put out a lengthy statement on Facebook. We'll deep dive on that. Let's start with a couple tweets from Jim, who wrote, "Thanks to everyone who came to my show Saturday night in Philadelphia. It felt good to get on stage. Amazingly, there was no violence, given as it's one of those dangerous Democratic-run cities." Jim not letting up. He also tweeted, "Whoever runs the Russian/Trump bots, same office, right? Please tell them they aren't working. Maybe direct bots at voters that are undecided. Also, I appreciate you bigots tweeting that you are no longer following me. It's inspiring me to continue. Much love." From Jim's Facebook, a post titled, "What I've Learned Since I Lost My Mind." Jim writes, "Before you start reading this, let me be clear. You do not have to read this. I'm not asking you to. I wrote this for myself mainly. No need to tell me this is poorly written. I know. I'm sure there are grammatical errors also. I've known for a long time I probably have an undiagnosed learning disability. My goal in writing this down is a hope that I can organize and explain to you and myself why I did what I did and decide what we will do over the next 60 days ago. To be clear up front, I don't think anyone is going to let an actor or comedian tell them who to vote for, despite the fact that the current president is essentially both an actor and a comedian. However, I'd be lying if I didn't say I want to change some minds. Of course I do. I feel strongly about what's going on in our country. I'll get to that shortly. But I don't believe I'm an expert on politics or how the world works. I'd much rather be making jokes about some strange food I ate in Estonia. So let's set the stage. On the Thursday night, I went on a Twitter rant about the RNC and Trump. I did. I must have been drunk. I wasn't. I was angry, cursing. I was, while tweeting out things that contradicted everything I stood for as a so-called, quote, clean Catholic comedian, unquote. I disagree. In reality, I've made jokes about Trump in my last 3 specials and repeatedly expressed support for gay rights and Black Lives Matter on social media. Regardless of any of that, I am perceived as apolitical. That is somewhat intentional. I learned early in my stand-up career people don't want to hear about politics from me. I knew me talking politics wasn't changing any minds and was only alienating half the audience. Okay, fine. So why now? The answer is simple. Trump is a great salesman. So he goes on there for a few paragraphs about Trump, and then he writes, "So let's go over what I've learned since I lost my mind," or, quote, "my Thursday night tweet storm." It felt liberating. Obviously, I can only speak for myself, but I know many of us are tired of censoring everything we say so we don't offend our politically correct friends, but this also applies to our passionate Trump friends, relatives, and peers. There's more to that paragraph. Next paragraph. "There are bots, a lot of them. On Thursday night, I knew I would anger some followers with what I was saying and was prepared for the feedback. There was tons. I assumed some of the feedback was from bots, not that I necessarily understood the technology. I knew that there were computer-generated messages sent to me by an algorithm." He talked about the one woman that I mentioned on the podcast yesterday, and he said, "I noticed a woman, gave her name, had tweeted at me, 'You just lost a lot of fans.' I proceeded to tweet a bunch of things to her, hopefully trying to be funny and persuasive. Eventually, another person on Twitter saw my series of tweets to her and informed me that the woman I was tweeting at was in fact a bot. While equally hilarious and frightening, this was revealing to me, why was I the target of bots? Was it a Russian bot? A Trump bot? Is Trump a bot?" The next paragraph. "Hollywood is a pedophile ring." Wait, what? Jim writes, "Through numerous messages, I learned that while Trump wished Epstein's partner/groomer well, the Democrats are the ones who are supposedly pro-pedophile. It became abundantly clear that many, many people really do believe Hollywood and the entertainment industry is an enormous pedophile ring. I know that sounds absurd, but I received dozens of messages from people convinced this was true. This isn't as much of a fringe belief as you might think. Pizzagate wasn't a one-off. It was the tip of the iceberg." Next paragraph. "Republican talking points work." You get the hint there. Next paragraph. "Career suicide/career move. As with many of the messages I received, the accusations were often contradictory. Many people announced that my career was over, while some thought my tweets were a career stunt to bolster my career. If it were a stunt, I would have done it years ago." And there's more to that paragraph. Skipping down to the next one. "Threats. The image that is connected to this post is one of many messages I received that are quasi-threatening or flat-out threatening. I have friends that have received much worse, and I'm sure this guy is just engaging in some bluster. We all know Trump is not a unifier, but remember, he and his cronies stoke hatred and violence." There's more to that paragraph. Next paragraph. "It's about Trump. It doesn't matter that Trump and his folks are breaking laws, trying to kill Obamacare, pre-existing conditions, or that his handling of the pandemic was disastrous. To Trump voters, he is their guy." And there's more to that paragraph. And Jim wraps up with, "I'm still digesting the whole experience and still apologizing to my wife Jeannie for my profanity. But if you're still on the fence, I encourage you to vote not for who I want you to vote for, but for who your grandchildren would be proud for you blanking voted for." Sorry, Jeannie. He did curse there at the end. It's a lot, right? All right, let's take a break and then we'll come back and see what else is going on. Larry the Cable Guy with a great tweet. The Miami Dolphins announced they're going to allow 13,000 fans at their home opener. If done successfully, it will break last year's home opener attendance by 4,200. Ted Alexandro tweets, as I watch major sports play in empty stadiums, I think it's time to bring comedy back in empty clubs. A couple leftovers from the late night shows last week. James Corden said, Make America Great Again Again? It doesn't inspire confidence. If your friend said to you, I'm getting married again, you'd be like, sounds like that might not last. Corden also said, it's almost like they never made America great in the first place. Trevor Noah said, I didn't think they could come up with something much worse than Make America Great Again, but they did it because MAGA was an ambiguous call to a bygone era that never really existed. This new slogan sounds like somebody who got hit in the head with a bag of hammers, because what's implied with Make America Great Again is that at some point during your presidency, you messed up. Trevor said, if my plumber said he needed to fix my toilet again, I would find a new plumber and a new toilet. The late night shows are mostly dark this week. I think Conan is on and everybody else took the week off. So not sure how many late night jokes I'll have for you, but I'll lean on the tweet. Speaking of late night shows, Awards Daily spoke to Seth Meyers and said, hey, how do you feel about going back to the studio in September? And Seth said his in-laws will be thrilled with him leaving, but they're very lovely people, so they'll probably hide how thrilled they are. I'll see some crocodile tears on my way out of their house. It's mixed feelings. I'm certainly happy to get back to a building that I've worked in for almost 2 decades, but I'm also really aware that it won't be the same vibrant, fun place I'm accustomed to it being, so I'm trying to scale down my expectations on how joyous it's going to be, while appreciating it's the first step to hopefully getting back to the joyous place I remember. Yeah, we'll start to see semi-normal stuff, right? And I think Kimmel's back from vacation next week as well. Awards Daily said, do you have any particular plans for the return to the studio show? Seth said, unfortunately, all the planning right now is based on health and safety. We're taking that very seriously. John Oliver's got a late night show, and he went in on Jared Kushner. Kushner last week suggested that the boycotting NBA players were just taking a night off from work. Oliver said, first, get an F, Jared. You welcome to Marwin Reject for starters. They're not taking a night off from work. The emotional toll of being black in America, combined with the pressure to perform at an elite level during a global pandemic, is, I'm guessing, pretty taxing. So by not playing, they're not exactly taking a spa day. And if NBA players are too rich to take meaningful action, then who exactly is in the right tax bracket to have their protest approved by America's most laminated prince? And a quick one from the Interrobang. Chris DiStefano went on Instagram. He announced the Steamy Windows Drive-In Tour. I like that, and yeah, I get it. He's going to be doing that tour with Andrew Santino, and he wrote, honk if it's funny, hit your windshield wipers if it ain't. This is 2020. Come have a good time, hun. They've only announced 3 dates so far: Pittsburgh, Scranton, and Cape Cod in October. That is your comedy news for today. Hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Follow the podcast on Spotify, or, if you get your podcast somewhere else, good on you, man. See you tomorrow.